Hey guys, so here's part 3 of our 2.7 extension day 3 notes. We are writing piecewise functions. Okay, first thing is to use our notation. We do f of x equals curly bracket. Now notice here we have 3 lines, so we will have to find 3 equations. So 1, 2, 3, and then I use my comma, and then I will have 3 restrictions here. Okay, so let's find the slope and y-intercept of our first line. So here, notice that the line is not crossing the y-axis. So what that means is I have to find the slope and then use it to extend the line to find the y-intercept. Okay, so I'm going to go from the open circle. So it looks like I go up 1, but left 2. Let me try that again. Up 1, left 2. So for the slope here, when I go up 1, that's positive, but when I go to the left 2, that's negative. So my slope here is -1/2. Now I'm going to use that to extend this line to find what is the y-intercept. So I go down 1, then to the left 2. Go down 1, to the left 2. So it looks like I cross at -1. So the y-intercept here is going to be -1. So writing this as -1/2 x minus 1. And don't forget, we always write it as mx plus b. Okay, so now finding the equation of my second line. So here I have a segment. Now that's going to come very important when we talk about how to write this as a restriction. Now first of all, notice that I do not go up or down any. I just go over to the right. Okay, so that really just represents for our slope. I do not run anything, but I go over by 1. And that gives us 0. Okay. Now, let's figure out what is the y-intercept. So if I just keep going to the right, notice that I'm going to hit -2. So that means my y-intercept, the b value, is -2. Now, how do we write this? Notice it's a horizontal segment. When we write horizontal rays or segments for linear equations, we write it just as the y-intercept. Okay, now our last one. So here, I'm going to find the slope. So I'm going from the open circle. So I go up, it looks like 1, 2, 3, to the right 2. Let me do that one more time. 1, 2, 3, to the right 2. So it looks like my slope is going to be up 3 to the right 2, so 3/2. Now this one does cross the y-axis, so that's going to be my y-intercept. It looks like it crosses at +2. So writing this, I will have 3/2 x plus 2. Okay, now we need to talk about our x's. So we're going to take this part by part. I'm going to kind of do some erasing here just so we can see the open and closed circles. There we go. Okay, so our first one, I noticed my open and closed circles and kind of just maybe making a line to go see, okay, where does this go through, okay? So I see that my open and closed circles, I have to see what do these two have in common for their x. Well, it looks like they have in common 1, 2, 3, -4. So on the top, -1/2 x minus 1, that is a ray. So remember when we have rays, we have one part to the restriction. So I'm going to have my x, and then the number I'm going to have there is -4. Now notice which way this graph is facing. It is going to the left. So if it's going to the left, are the x values getting larger or smaller? They're getting smaller. So we're going to use the less than. And here we don't have the equal bar because that line or that ray has an open circle. Okay, so now I do the same thing for my second equation. I will have -4. But notice here it is a segment. It has a starting and stopping point. What that represents is that it is going to have 2 parts to its restriction. So that means I will have x, but then I will have a number on either side of my x. Now, I already know it's -4 for one of them, but now I have to check the other one. So I see where the closed circle and open circle, where they intersect. I'm finding what is the x value they have in common. It is -2. So when we write our restriction with 2 numbers, how we write that is that the smallest number goes on the left-hand side and the bigger number goes on the right-hand side. Now, because we are having a segment, the nice part is the inequality sign will always face the same way. We will have always the less than symbol, no matter what. So anytime you have two parts to your restriction, it is always the less than. Now we need to decide on both of them, are we going to have the equal bar or is there not going to? Well, at -4, there is a closed circle. So that means we do have an equal bar. At -2, there's also a closed circle, so we have an equal bar there. Now our last one, okay, we will write this, and it is a race. That means there's only one part. So I use x, and I will use the -2. So now from there, I need to decide on my last equation, is that going to the right or to the left? Well, it's going to the right. That means the x values are getting larger. So I need to use the greater than sign. Now, do I have an equal bar? No, because that circle is open. So that would be our inequality. So this would be our final answer for our piecewise function. Okay, now let's go ahead. We're going to do one more, and this is going to be dealing with step functions. Now, this is what I need you to do. I need you to go ahead, kind of extend this top line and make it open. I'm going to make it red so you guys can really see it. There you go. That's going to be open. Okay, and I think the rest is good. Actually, where this arrow is at, make that a closed circle. We're going to do it that way. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to once again do our piecewise function. I'm going to do it down here because I'm going to have more room. Okay, so we use f of x equals curly bracket. Okay, now notice how many lines we have. In this case, we actually just have segments. We have 4 segments. So I'm going to have 4 equations here. And for each equation, there is going to be a restriction. Okay. Now remember, with segments, there are always going to be 2 parts to the restriction. Okay. Now let's first find the equations. Now notice all of these are horizontal. How do we write the equation of all of our horizontals? It is just going to be the y-intercept because the slope is 0. So we're going to start from the top and work our way to the bottom. So at the top, the y-intercept is 20. For our second horizontal, notice that if we extended that segment, it would hit 15 as our y-intercept. If we extended the next horizontal, that y-intercept would be 10. And then lastly, if we extended this horizontal, that would be 5. Okay, so now we have that. Our next step is we have to figure out, well, what are the restrictions? Now notice that all of these are segments. Anytime we have segments, there are going to be 2 parts to the restriction. So you might want to write this on your notes here. So one part to the restriction. So we will have a ray when there is 1 part to the restriction. We will have a segment. So remember, a segment has a starting and stopping point. When there are 2 parts to the restriction. Okay, so all of these are segments, so they're going to have 2 parts. And so how we write it with 2 parts is x is going to be in the middle, and we're only going to use the less than symbols. So that's the nice, easy thing, okay? Now let's look at our equation of 20. We need to figure out basically where is the open and closed circles. That's all, okay? And when we are looking at this, we're looking at the x values. So if I look, my open circle is at 0, and my closed circle is at 20. Now remember, when we write inequalities, we always go from the smallest number to the largest. So your smallest number is going to be on the left-hand side of x, your largest number is going to be on the right. Now, as I said, we are going to be using only the less than symbols. That's it. So at the 0, is that an open or closed circle? It is open, so no equal bar. But at 20 for our x, that it is a closed circle, so there is an equal bar. Okay, let's look at our equation of 15, that segment. Okay, where's our open circle? The open circle is at 20. Where's the stopping point, or the closed circle? It is at 40. Now, once again, we will always use the less than symbols every single time we have segments. Now, at the 20, see, that's our x value. Is that open or closed? It is open, so no equal bar. But what about when it's at 40, the closed circle? Well, that is going to be an equal bar since it is closed, okay? Okay, our third segment. Well, that x value for the open circle is 40, and in the closed circle is at 80, okay? So our starting with our open, so that is at 40. So remember, we do not use an equal bar if it's an open, but at 80, it is a closed circle, so we use an equal bar. Okay, last one. So for our last segment, we got an open circle at 80 and in a closed circle at 90. So don't forget we use the less than symbol. At 80, it's an open circle, so no equal bar. At 90, it is a closed circle, so there is an equal bar. Okay? So this would be our piecewise function for this step function. Okay, make sure if you guys have any questions, you contact me, and make sure you guys work on the homework assignment. I'll see you guys later.